Gracias, ingeniero Chávez, por ese importante mensaje. A continuación, nos trasladamos al continente europeo con el Keynote Speech que abre la jornada técnica del día de hoy, dedicado a la digitalización de la energía. Me permito presentar al doctor Maximilian Scheidt, director general y propietario del grupo ProCom GmbH de Alemania, empresa que junto a Merelec hacen posible este evento. Max, como le llaman sus colegas, es ingeniero en Industria y Administración con especialidad en investigación operativa. Posee un doctorado en Economía y Ciencias Sociales. Es experto en programación, comercialización y despacho de energía en mercados europeos, además de poseer un amplio conocimiento en el diseño de modelos de optimización. Bienvenido, Max.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this keynote talk in our Merelec ProCom Digital Week conference. I'll give you a short overview of my impressions and my takes on digitization and how that affects our everyday life, as well as the energy industry, in especially the energy industry. I'll give you in my talk a very brief overview of the processes of digitization in general, followed by a short excerpt on how digitization will and already does influence the energy markets in at least in Europe and a number of regions on top. Towards the end, we'll give you a short example of how a virtual power plant, as a very new concept, generating, storing, and marketing in energy, will be influenced by digitization. First of all, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this talk as well as to the conference, and I'm very thankful to our partners from Merelec who have invested heavily a lot of time and effort in organizing this digital conference. I would have loved to actually talk to you, to all of you personally in Central America, but given the current situation worldwide and the COVID situation, of course, that's impossible. So I'm very grateful that at least we have a chance to hold this conference in a digital mode. My name is Max Scheidt. I'm the CEO of ProCom, and allow me for a few seconds to give you some introduction what ProCom is actually doing and who ProCom is. ProCom is a mid-sized company from Germany. We have more than 40 years of experience in engineering in a diverse field of engineering actually, but over the time we have focused on engineering and consulting the energy industry. As of now, we are about 80 people, comprised of people from 12 different nationalities, have about 150 clients, mainly energy clients. And we're quite happy that we've implemented a number of successful solutions in energy management in Europe and Germany. As you can see, we are located in different places in Germany as well as in China, which is a very interesting market from our point of view. And of course, we're very happy that with Merelec, we are in a good cooperation to also bring experiences to Central America. What we do is actually our value proposition is we're helping our customers to make better decisions easier and faster. We can see that with liberalization of energy markets, the questions of optimizing the asset dispatch, of forecasting uncertain influences, as well as trading on wholesale markets becomes a dominant effect in actually running a energy business profitable. And so we're very happy that as of today, we're dispatching a huge part of the European fleet of power and heat generation And we've proven to our customers that they can actually achieve quantifiable benefits in cooperating with ProCom. In that way, we are improving their P&L, we are helping them to mitigate risks, and we're helping to actually ensure security of supply in the diverse energy markets. What we are working for is actually energy companies from a diverse area of the value chain. That is number one, that's asset-backed operators, meaning energy companies who own their own power plants, own storages, different heat grids. So it's mostly generation and storage companies, as well as part of the heavy chemical industry in Germany, as you can see from the slide deck. Nonetheless, we are also working with a group of asset-backed traders who are more focusing on actually wholesale trading and using the assets in an optimal way against the market. And last but not least, we are as well servicing infrastructure operators like the big transmission system operators in Germany, or Ellering, for that example, is in Estonia. So in that matter, we're helping our customers to become permanently successful, and we are part of the digitization as an ongoing process already for more than 30 years, although in those earlier times you wouldn't call it digitization. So it's a technological, sociocultural, and economic challenge. From my point of view, it is all three which needs to be combined to actually gain the most out of digitizing the business processes and the like. So let's just start on the socio-cultural angle of the discussion with a very short example. If you take a look at how digitization actually influences everyday life, you can look at this picture stating the announcement of Pope Benedict XVI back in 2005, and if you try to spot the mobile phones on that picture, you will see that actually in the lower right corner you can see a mobile phone, and with some and at the lower left corner there seems also to be one with held by a lady in this picture. And if you want to see what is the speed, or how the speed of digitization actually influences everyday life and especially the consumer markets, then you should look at the same picture around 8 years later, when actually Pope Francis was announced. You can see that it looks like it will be really hard to stop people not holding a smartphone. Looks like everyone is very eager to document this very moment of the announcement of a new Pope digitally. So we can conclude from that digitization is actually a megatrend, or actually it is a social megatrend. So digitization, as we see it, triggers a social change, as well as social megatrends trigger digitization. And if we take a closer look at what the Zukunftsinstitut actually establishes as megatrends of our times, we can see that as number one, it's individualization. Individualization actually is a central cultural principle in the Western world, and it's increasingly unfolding its impact on a global scale. It's a very complex megatrend. It might have reached a temporary peak in many affluent nations, and it has become a basis of our social structures. This megatrend is actually recoding society. It affects our value systems, it affects our consumption patterns and everyday culture in equal measure. In a sense, it means a freedom of choice. However, it's complex. It has complex effects and creates both an apparent countertrend, such as a weak culture, new group strains, And it's closely interwoven with megatrends like urbanization, gender shift, and connectivity. If we look at connectivity, I think that is the most powerful megatrend of our time. The principle of networking dominates social change and opens a new chapter in the evolution of society. Digital communication technologies are fundamentally changing our lives, reprogramming socio-cultural codes and giving rise to new lifestyles and patterns of behavior. So, in order to successfully accompany this fundamental change, companies as well as individuals need new network competencies and a holistic system understanding of digital change. Another megatrend which is influencing especially also the energy business is actually neo-ecology. So we see the growing of organic markets. We get new plastics regulations, for example, in the European Union, and we see the energy system transformation. So this trend of neo-ecology actually extends into every area of our everyday lives. Whether it's personal purchasing decisions, social values, or corporate strategy, even if not always apparent at first glance, it is increasingly becoming one of the most powerful drivers of our time, not least due to technological innovations. Megatrend is not only causing a realignment of the values of global society, culture, and politics, it's changing the fundamental foundations of entrepreneurial thinking and action. You take, for example, that big insurance companies like Allianz Group here in Germany has actually decided not to invest into anything which is coal-related. So you can see that neo-ecology is actually shifting capital or money in big amounts. Another megatrend is globalization. Okay, we see there is a counter trend as well, given the, for example, if you look into the United States. But globalization is nonetheless a very strong and ongoing force in the worldwide economy. So the challenges which are associated with globalization, with an increasingly complex network world, must not obscure the positive effects that we have by globalizing markets. After all, while politicians are still trying to regulate global business with old nation-state mechanisms, the world society has long been on its way into the future of the 21st century. Many current trends, from the postal growth economy to direct trade and the rise of the generation global, reinforce the global dynamics that will move the international system further in a progressive direction in the coming years. And personally, I'm pretty sure that the globalization as a megatrend will, in the end, persist. Last but not least, new work is also a megatrend, which is new work is also a megatrend. So digitization is throwing people back on their humanity, especially in working life. If machines can do certain jobs better than humans in the future, we'll begin to think about the meaning of work. If work no longer needs us, what do we need work for? New work describes an epochal upheaval that begins with a question of meaning and transforms the world of work from the ground up. The age of the creative economy has dawned, and it's time to bid farewell to the rational meritocratic society. New work focuses on the development of the potential of every single person, because new work is at the service of people. We no longer work to live, and we no longer live to work. In the future, it's all about successful symbiosis of living and working. And this new work is very common and very prevalent currently in the service society and in software development. And it's a basis, actually its basis is digitization. Okay, it's not a mega trend, and still we see that we have a lot of influences currently by COVID-19 pandemic. Actually, this pandemic has the same impact on the global society like the megatrends we named before. It's in the end enforcing the trend towards digitization. So which trends are the ones that we are currently making use of by presenting this conference to you in a digital way? Actually, that's thanks to connectivity, thanks to globalization, and the trend towards new work, which is actually in combination allowing us to bring this conference to you in a digital way. Digitization, what does it mean? So you can actually find three different definitions on that. A classical one, which means we're converting analog signals into digital ones. We have the connotation of digital twins, and we're talking about a real digital transformation. I'll give you some examples for each of these three definitions. The first wave of digitization was the conversion from analog to digital signals. On the information storage, we can go from cave paintings to cloud storages. In music, we have actually the conversion of analog sound waves via sound alternating pressure oscillations to electric signals, which can be stored digitally and in the end resold as music CDs, also available in cloud stores these days. And of course, you have the photography, which went from optochemically based photography to actually digital photography. You can also find the same analog to digital signals in the energy industry. For example, if you convert the rotor speed of a hydro generator into digital signals. The second wave is actually based on the idea of digital twins, meaning we're operating digital models of tangible or intangible processes or objects from the real world. Examples would be a global weather model, which simulates worldwide weather situation digitally and under consideration of actual conditions to generate weather forecasts for the future. Fashion companies nowadays offer a wide variety of made-to-measure methodologies where you can actually have your suit fit to your body size digitally. Computer games, who wouldn't like to be a master of the Formula One racetrack in Monaco? So you have a digital model of the racetracks. And also in energy industry, you're using digital twins to evaluate the efficiency of new gas turbines or to operating a number of interwoven and interdependent assets against different energy market segments. The third wave of digitization is actually a full digital transformation to exploit the full potential which is arising from digital technologies in all areas of state, society, and everyday life. Mainly, we can see that as of now from the B2C business, but also here you will find lots of examples which have already started in the energy business. Like you have in liberalized markets, it's pretty easy to change your supplier. So on the sales part of the value chain, it's already a lot of digitization. Likewise, you have the same in wholesale trading. So we've seen the evolvement of huge power trading platforms, power exchanges for different time periods over the last years. This slide, I would say. There's also examples in the energy business for renewable energy generation and storage, the combination of which is very important actually to manage with the fluctuating generation patterns of renewables. In the end, all this became possible only due to the development of basic technology, and actually especially the cost regression of these basic technologies. All this digitization is possible because computing power has evolved dramatically over the last 60 to 80 years. If you look at this at the development of the prices, you can see for computing power, prices are basically stable, while the flops, floating point operations per second, figure is actually increasing dramatically. So from 1941 to 2020, you have 5 times 10 to the power of 12 increase in computing power for basically the same amount of money, given that all euro figures are given in today's terms. The same applies for digital data storage. You see that while back in the 1950s, 62 bytes, you paid 500 euro. Today, you're talking about 2 terabyte, meaning 2 times 10 to the power of 12 as storage for 10 euro per month. Last but not least, bandwidth is increasing dramatically thanks to glass fiber, and also here we see that the pricing compared to the increase in bandwidth is in a very good ratio. So thanks to these basic technologies, we are able to digitize a lot of business processes. Once you have the basic technology in hands, of course, people start to use it and businesses start to use it. So what you can see actually that there's a whole swirl of businesses and branches which are sucked into this swirl. We can see that, for example, you can see that the technology branch was the first one actually to be completely digitized, followed by media and entertainment and retail services. Today, we see a lot of new fintechs coming up at the market, meaning the financial technology sector is also digitized already in its second wave, I'd say. First wave was online banking and measures. So we can see that with all these different sectors of the business-to-business world are being sucked into the swirl of digitization. And we see that after healthcare, now with number 10, we see the utility sector coming to this point of digitizing as well. If you look into the economics of digitization, good point of measurement would be to look into the market capitalization of different businesses. I think you might well know most of the companies listed on this picture here. You can see that the world's most valuable businesses are all of them business companies from the digital world. It's all platform companies. If you look to the lower right of this chart, lower right corner, you will actually see that these 3 small squares, that's huge, big German industry, actually big German car makers, car producers. And if you total their value and compare it to the Tesla company, which is directly left to them, the total of the 3 does not match Tesla's value or market capitalization these days. So at least the big money sees Tesla more as a platform and digital company than as a car manufacturer. So we see that these digital and platform companies will be the winners in tomorrow's world. And from my point of view, actually energy utilities will have to transform themselves into digital companies, into platform companies as well. So what is digitization in the energy industry? in the end meaning. If you take a look at the value chain of energy businesses, that's quite a long value chain. And we see a lot of the global megatrends actually influencing this value chain. So first of all, we have the individualization, which influences the sales and the demand in the end. The requirements for green energy, green fuels, green electricity, that is actually adding pressure to utilities on the sales side. The connectivity as the megatrend, the most powerful megatrend, is also very powerful in the energy business. It influences generation, storage, and trading mainly, plus sales, not so much the transmission. Neo-ecology, that is the dominant trend on generation and storage. Globalization as a trend can be associated with trading and generation as well. Within Europe, we see a strong cooperation of generators as well as transmission system operators across the countries, across the whole European Union. So we are talking about supergrids, which are established by digitization measures. New work is again requiring a lot of adaptation on the demand side. If you look into ProCom today, you will see there's not many people on site. Most people are working in their offices or out of their home offices actually, which means the new work is actually shifting the electricity consumption. And ProCom is only a very small company. That happens for a lot of German companies these days. So you have completely different load flows and demands. So if we take this value chain and all these trends, then we can see that actually we have to adapt, to reorient the energy industry under these trends on different points of the value chain. So we have this minimize the carbon consumption, which is influencing very, very strongly the generation side of the business. We want to maximize renewable energy generation, which is likewise on the generation side, as well as the decentralization is mainly on the generation and storage side. Increase expansion and use of energy storages, which need to be researched and developed to some part and installed, also decentrally installed, which will change a lot of the business. We can see that we have that we are experiencing better coverage of rural areas and with the development of isolated networks. So it's getting into the direction of electricity autarky to some point. And of course, from a liberalized market point of view, this is a classical value chain. I admit that non-liberalized markets don't have the trading step in the value chain in the same size or importance maybe. But also liberalization of markets is affecting the value chain on the trading as well as on the sales side. So all this whole digitization combined with the neo-ecology trend are requiring the energy business to transform itself, going from a very centralized generation and storage system based on fossil fuels today into a system, into a new world, to tomorrow's world, which will be dominated by renewable energies, by a lot of energy storage, by fluctuating generation and fluctuating demand. The customer will not only be customer, he will become a prosumer. He will produce electricity and consume electricity, and if he's using electrical vehicles, he might even be a storage operator to some extent. This whole system will be dominated by distributed generation and storage on top of the already existing distributed demand. And we'll see new market players coming into the picture, like Google. Politics, regulation, society, all this will have to adapt to this new world. And all in all, this creates a lot of importance for networking and communication technologies. Today, we're expecting that distributed energy resources will grow at least 5 times faster than central generation. We're expecting new technologies, point-to-point trading, local flexibility trading, smart meters, to come up in this new energy world, the smart grids as well. So all this means the energy industry will have to change a lot, and it will have to invest a lot of money and resources into this transition. I'm pretty sure the digitization will lead to a lot of efficiency gains, but the question is, where do these efficiency gains lie? Sorry, for the major part. If we take a look again at the value chain, we can see that, first of all, very often a starting point for digitization in the energy industry is on the sales side. It allows utilities to build new products, to go more for individual pricing, better pricing towards customers, and to operate their business a lot more in a digital way, thereby reducing administrative costs. So the McKinsey made a study which says, okay, there's about an 8.5% efficiency gain on the sales level of the value chain. In the transmission level, we'll see an increase of about 4.3% from that same study, mainly due to fewer losses in transmission and higher productivity thanks to digital methodologies. On the generation side, there is a very big impact with 6.6%, basically on a better dispatch of the assets, on an optimized use of storages, and an optimum plant maintenance scheduling, spare parts management, as well as fuel. So there's a huge increase or efficiency gain here, and this is mostly to be seen in combination with trading. As nowadays in liberalized markets, you don't operate your assets without trading them on wholesale markets at the same time. So taking together generation and trading, we are expecting about 9.1% efficiency gains through better and faster decision making on the trading side, through extensive market understanding, and better being able to balance the energy, the general energy balance. There will be another 1.3% by group-wide resource planning, which can be lifted in huge groups or conglomerates of energy utilities. So all in all, McKinsey foresees a 23.2% efficiency gain potential in the through digitization of the energy business. The good question is now, of course, what is the focus of your company, the company you're working for? Is it more in sales? Is it more in generation? And think about where to start digitization here. One thing that digitization brings, though, is actually that it's reducing the sharpness of division between generation and sales, as it does with the customer. The customer is not necessarily only a consumer; he might also be a producer. So this strong division of generation on one side and sales on the other side will be weakened if you by digitization and liberalization of markets. That's to be seen, and that's also a strategic question for energy companies to see how they would like, whether they want to actually enlarge their part of the value chain or find a way to actually more parts of it. If we look into, as a last step, if we look into a virtual power plant, that's very straightforward. First of all, if you have a power plant, assume this as a simple sketch of a power plant consisting of renewable generation, some hydro plants on the top right side, some heat, local heat distribution on the lower right side. You have lower left, you have fuel markets, and you have some electricity generation possibilities right in the center of this picture. Then, of course, everything starts with reading out actual data from your technical assets, either via SCADA technologies, well established in the energy business, or smart meters. So that would be the first step of the digitization, converting analog signals into digital signals. Once you've done this, you'll come to question of you'll use digital twins as a second step to forecast everything which is out of your sphere of decision, which you're not free to choose, which would be the generation of solar plants, the generation of wind plants, as well as the demand for electricity or gas or heat. That's what you need a digital twin for, to forecast these generation and consumption. In a third step, you would use actually digital twins again for your assets to decide on how do I want to use my battery? What is my profile of charging and discharging? How do I operate a gas storage? How do I operate my power plant? All this in a manner to optimize the economics of this full asset, fleet of assets actually. Last but not least, as a step 3 of the digitization, the digital transformation, meaning you want to identify and consistently exploit the potential arising from the digital technology. You might use again forecasting of prices and digital twins of the associated markets to find the best operating scheme for your physical assets and to actually trade the energy in a most useful and profit maximizing way on the different market segments which are available. If we take this together and put it together as an end-to-end process for energy business and actually a digital end-to-end process, then you have these 3 different gross steps: analyze, plan and operate, and monetize. With the detailed steps of capturing, aggregating, and forecasting, meaning analyzing your digital inputs, then optimizing and scheduling your assets. That's where you have the choice, the freedom to decide, and monetize via trading, and in the end settle towards your counterparts. This can be done for a number of different generation sets and markets with different objectives, but all in all, this digital process will actually help you to optimize the use of assets of your energy assets in that respect. So in that sense, what we see or what we understand is that the digitization will change all companies, and everyone will have to think about strategy, structure, and culture that he wants to live with in a digitized world. It promises a high potential for profit increase in the energy business. And to some extent, and I admit I have not elaborated on that very much, I think that creating the technical basis for digitization is actually the simple process or the simple problem. the major efforts one has to spend in digitizing his business is actually creating a change of mind inside the heads of his staff. Because in the end, even if we're digitizing processes, it is still people working together, people coming together in the right point of time with the right objectives, which make companies work at its best. In that sense, thanks for being with us today, and thanks for joining this conference. I hope I was able to give you a small idea of how we see digitization. I wish you 2 interesting days in this Merelec ProCom Digital Week, and I hope that one day we can actually meet in person. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Scheidt. En este momento haremos un receso de 10 minutos para dar paso posteriormente a la conferencia magistral.